Hi guys, welcome. Funny story for you, and if you're new to my channel or just now finding me, I'm that history chick. I make historical based adventure vlogs, taking you to historic sites and giving the backstories behind what we're looking at. It's a bit of a time travel with this and that sprinkled in. Sometimes it's visiting a town where I take you on a walking tour, museum, monument, things like that. Sometimes it's an event and could be anything from pop culture to the 18th century and beyond. Shopping, food, travel tips, filming sites, all the good stuff. If there's a historic site in America, I've probably been there. I have a particular passion for and specialize in the 18th century, American and British both, because, well, let's face it, we're intertwined. You might find I'm a little partial to Scotland when it comes to that, but that's another story. I also love America, and that's a huge motivating factor, and what keeps me going as I continue to learn. Well, let's just say, to know her is to love her. I live with my family in beautiful New Hampshire, and I've been really fortunate to travel a lot. I only wish I was vlogging earlier, but I guess better late than never. Now, if you're wondering why the image you're seeing isn't matching up with what I'm saying, that's part of the funny story, so getting back to that. I just made this vlog a couple of days ago, and when I went to edit that same night, I realized that I had a little bit of a problem. I figured out what it was. Apparently, somehow the Bluetooth on my wireless mic somehow came on inside the carrying case that was inside of my car. So when I was anywhere near my car outside filming, it wasn't picking up on the built-in audio. Fun times. Now, what I was going to say was something to the effect of, we are in Manchester, New Hampshire today, and I'm really excited to be here because we're going to explore a museum that we haven't even been to yet. This is the Manchester Historical Society's Milyard Museum. It's in a very beautiful historic building that became the largest cotton mill in the world. That's crazy. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love the fact that New England revives her mill buildings. I've been to a lot of states, and if you drive through the middle of America, or if you've done that yourself, you know what I'm saying is true. A lot of the old cool brick buildings just lay in ruin, kind of rotting away. Not the case for most places in New England. They have life in them, and here in Manchester, part of that is due to a man in the 1980s, a real visionary named Dean Kamen. He was also the inventor of the Segway, held a lot of patents actually. He's a real genius. Now going back in time a little bit to another visionary named Samuel Blodgett, who in 1807 had the good idea of putting a dam system on the Merrimack River, flows right here through Manchester. Knowing civilizations obviously throughout time build up our own waterways, this, was really wilderness before that, and you can still see remnants of trees along the water here. It's not flat either. If you squint, imagine, and try real hard, it's not hard to see what Manchester looked like before Samuel Blodgett came here and named it Manchester. And he did name it after Manchester, England. It was previously Dairyfield, New Hampshire. He did change the name owing to the success of the Industrial Revolution in England that came before our Industrial Revolution. So the plan worked, and after Blodgett set all that up, eventually the Amoskeag Mill came in and was built on this land, and from that came thousands of jobs, new industry to the area, and Manchester really made a name itself during the Industrial Revolution as the largest cotton mill in the world, which again, I find amazing. The mill thrived. Eventually other businesses had to be built up around it, forming what became the city of Manchester, now the largest city in New Hampshire and the 10th largest of all the New England states. Now, sometimes for some reason Manchester gets a bad rap around here. We don't really get it. I think perspective is a lot, but we appreciate it for what it is. We love the buildings, the rich history, the cool Industrial Revolution vibe that it always gives off. It's an awesome place to visit, and they always have a lot going on. All right, we're gonna go on in. And if any of you watched my Dover, New Hampshire video, I talk about the really cool museum passport we have in New Hampshire. You pay $30 a person for the book, and you can visit each historic site or museum once. You get it stamped. There's about 30 locations inside, I think. It pays for itself once you've visited a couple of them, and it's just a really cool thing they do. So we're gonna take advantage of that today. Also, the audio does get normal in 1 second here, so just hang on. Stepped inside to this amazing building. So cool to be in, the genuine mill. We are inside, and here you see, starting with this little piece of art talking about Manchester and a video of the walking tour, picture of the mill. The UK saw a big boom with the Industrial Revolution before we did and had a lot of success. So this was named Manchester, New Hampshire after Manchester, England, hoping that that would kind of capture the spirit of it and that it would be a success as well. And I often say that choosing a name is very important. A name becomes kind of what you are, and that did in fact happen because this became very successful, and the chosen name really worked out. So you can see here the exposed brick even inside. And there is also a science center in here, and some other businesses. To the passport books I was talking about, for those of you who didn't, but you should totally go back and watch our Dover vlog. And we are looking at the Manchester Wall of Fame. And here is a picture of the gentleman I was telling you about. Dean came in the 1980s. He came in and kind of made a lot of this what it is. He also invented the Segway and apparently lots of other things, and holds a lot of patents. So a real dumbbell, as you can see. And a lot of other notable people on the wall. Of course, John Stark, which, wouldn't you know, I've got a vlog on that as well. You guys can go back and see kind of the backstory of how New Hampshire got its motto. There is Samuel Blodgett, very important person dealing with what we're talking about today. And let's see what this does.
West High graduates Richard and Maurice McDonald opened their first McDonald's famous hamburger restaurant in 1948 in San Bernardino, California. Although they eventually sold the fast food franchise to Ray Kroc, billions and billions of hamburgers have since been sold under the McDonald's name.
And who has a vlog about that as well? Yours truly, of course. Where's Adam Sandler? See him waving up there? He kind of blended in. A funny little side note, his sister was our dentist for a while. Yeah. All right, so nice little gift shop here. And if you don't have the passport book, and my oldest doesn't, so it is $10 for adults. So not bad at all. I never mind giving money to a museum or historic site. And I feel like that's very reasonable. Nice gift shop too. Lots of local things. So this is talking about how it's the most populated city in New Hampshire. I think I've mentioned that before. If not, there it is. That is in fact true. Another reason I think it's funny that I meet so many people, especially on the seacoast, who are kind of in a bubble, and that's fine. That's their choice. I'm not saying anything bad, just saying it's funny to me that so many people are like, nah, Manchester. It's like, well, a lot goes on here. There's a lot to see and do, and it is the most populous place. But anyways, all right, the native population. And of course, even the name of this complex before, it's obviously a native word. Just stepping in here, first impression, nicely curated, lots of signage, light, and stuff to go through. Around these parts, for the most part, it would have been the Abenaki, Penobscot, and Pennacook people. There are actually no reservations in the state of New Hampshire. And the story of what happened to them in New Hampshire, kind of sad, and it's not something that's really part of the current culture. So you have the first European settlements on the river, taking place from 1720 to 1810, and wouldn't you just know it, my peeps seem to be everywhere. So Scotch, Irish, oh, that word. All right, Ulstermen from the north of Ireland first settled the district, which they called Dairyfield, in the 1720s. Most of them were farmers who were drawn to less rocky, more fertile land away from the river. The river remained important, both as a source of fish and an avenue of transportation. Like I was saying outside, civilizations everywhere throughout time grow up around waterways. Makes sense. And having fertile land, really good. My son was just saying how stupid it was that it was called Dairyfield, and he's glad they actually changed it to Manchester, because we have so many things ending in field and so many things starting in dairy. It would have been confusing. Got an old tavern sign. Oh, love. 1739 on this one. Brentwood. That is very near where we live. The innkeeper was the great-grandfather of Frederick Smith, four-term mayor of Manchester and late governor. That's so cool. If I was rich, I think I would go to auctions and buy and collect old tavern signs. How cool would that look, like a series on a wall? Yes. Anyways. Okay, so Samuel Blodgett and his canal. Like I said, he really had this vision. It looks much the same, minus like all the big buildings. Around 1720, within a few months of settlement, the first grist mill was born. often starts with a gristmill. Such a simple thing, but they knew that, you know, out of that, it would work. The plan would work. Milling would be a good idea. Here you've got a lady. Oh, you guys, this was such hard work. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but, you know, you had children working these, men and women, all types of people, long, hard hours. They worked their booties off. And regulation really didn't come about until Theodore Roosevelt came in and said, hey, this is not the conditions that we want in America for our people working. And finally, you know, said kids need to be learning or at home or in school, taken care of, not working all hours of the night in a damp mill. You know, people were getting, disease was rampant and conditions were horrible. The fibers you breathe, terrible for your lungs. And yay, Theodore Roosevelt, again, the visionary. So we're looking at some information about the history of logging in the area. They don't log as much here now, but Maine, we do see log trucks. Of course, when we lived in Oregon, that's a huge part of the culture there. A cool model for a statue on loan, apparently from the Peabody Essex Museum. Oh, I need to take you guys there. That's a very interesting museum down in Salem, Mass. But John Stark looking fierce. We have a maquette of Molly Stark, John's wife, holding one of their children, and very, very cool and interesting, a locket containing her hair engraved Elizabeth Stark. I think I told you guys before. Weird that her name was Elizabeth and yet she went by Molly. I have never heard of that. Maybe Liz, maybe Beth, Betty, Molly. I have no idea. That's just weird, but she was a good egg, so we'll let it go. And oh my goodness, a piece of wedding dress of Elizabeth Page Stark, Molly Stark, born February 16, 1737, died 1814, wife of John Stark. Look at that fabric in the corner there. And that is from 1758. Stark lived here. It was called Dairyfield. It wasn't even Manchester yet, so something kind of funny to think about. Of course, his house is down the road, and he's buried in that beautiful park. Go watch my vlog, you guys, to get more info on this incredible man. But oh, and I've been wanting to go back to Bennington. See, this cold weather has got me down. Oh, by the way, we wanted to do something like presidential, keeping in theme with the inauguration coming up. I'm like, what can we do that's presidential? A lot of things were too far away or you've already been to. And I was like, oh, we could go to Cambridge, go to Washington's headquarters. But newsflash, it's freezing and we've got a big storm coming. They're talking, I've heard between like 3 and 10 inches of snow. I know, there's a big difference between 3 and 10. But today was like the last decent day we're gonna have for a while. So I was like, we gotta do something. This is perfect because it's indoors. So if you are local or visiting and it is a cold day, come to the Milyard Museum in Manchester. Perfect place to stay cozy and learn something. This is of particular interest to me. Some actual items belonging to John Stark. And I am just now seeing this, so oh my goodness. A sickle for, you know, doing good old-fashioned yard work. Animal trap, which, hey, that is a concern here. We've got all kinds of crazy critters. I never lived anywhere where there's fisher cats. They make a horrifying sound at night. That's a New Hampshire thing. We've got bears, no elk, but we've got plenty of deer and, you know, raccoons, possums, you know, things like that. Moving on. Fowling piece. All right, so flintlock, muzzle loading percussion rifle belonging to John Stark. That's just incredible. His powder horn, which, oh, come on. Look, it even says General Stark on there. I love powder horns. If you guys are following along, you know how I feel about them. It's basically because they're so personal and often carved by the user. They would have had time during downtime in the midst of battle to do this. And, you know, if you've ever tried scrimshaw, it's actually very difficult, way harder than it looks. And I'm always impressed. There is an image of him. Sometimes people paid to have it done. by someone that would have been around, but oftentimes it was just the soldier making good use of their time, and what's left behind is this beautiful piece of not only military equipment, but artwork that's left behind for generations to enjoy. So powder horn for the win again. A pewter charger, some lead balls, postcard to his monument, which I take you to in that blog I was talking about, and an iron kettle. 18th century cooking kettle used by John Stark. I wonder what he was cooking in there. Beans? Stew? Maybe both. And there's that word again, Scots-Irish. That word that doesn't really exist in Ireland or Scotland. It's okay. I'm going to have to let that one go, you guys. That's the English definition, and I guess it's what people know, but you know I'm on a personal mission to change that too. Ulster settlers. So I would read it like this. Born in Londonderry, New Hampshire in 1720, sorry, I'm laughing, 1728, John Stark was the son of Ulster settlers, Archibald and Eleanor Stark. Now, of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that, of course, could mean that you have both Scottish and Irish ancestry, but usually the connotation it's used in here, they mean Ulster, as in Northern Ireland, and 9 times out of 10, that meant that you actually had Scottish ancestry, so you were Scottish living in Ireland before you came here. It does not alter your DNA or magically make you Irish. It's a huge misnomer. I talk to people all the time that are like, yeah, man, I'm wicked Irish. I say, oh, what's the surname? And they give me something like Campbell, McDonald, McGregor, or something like that, and I'm like, Try not to roll the eyes, bite the tongue, and I educate, which I don't mind, but doesn't magically make you Irish. Anyways, John Stark. Fantastic, no matter what he was. Happens to be a peep. And I'm glad that he's getting a lot of love in this museum. So moving on from the colonial era, we are talking about harnessing the power of the river to make things work and cool the mill. Also talking about some natural disasters, floods and the like that have happened. Apparently the Great Flood of 1896 and 1936. Doesn't sound so great. That's a very misleading name. And information about bricklaying. Of course, these are all built by brick, which that's another thing. These stonemasons, such hard work. Now, of course, this did provide a lot of jobs for people. You had the guy at the top, owning it, but it provided for the whole country. And I'm looking forward to seeing more about, where these products went and what they made. But it's always amazing to me. I think that's the thing about the Industrial Revolution. It was like America was coming into her own. We had been what we are for a while and come through the pains of major wars and, the Civil War. And we were on the move, building the nation, inventing and providing. And it's like an exciting time. And again, the culture of it is so interesting to me. These are faces of some really hardworking individuals, and some of them still have smiles on their face, so man. This is an original belt-driven loom. So you can see here, what a crazy looking contraption. I don't know exactly how it works, but look at it. Made cloth. I think it's like a finishing, see there? And yeah, so, the early mills were modeled after British factories, of course, because they had success, so we were kind of going off the information that we had from them. And I do know that a lot of the equipment in this place was provided by Samuel Slater. Samuel Slater was an amazing guy, New Englander. There's a fantastic museum that we absolutely love. I'm going to have to take you guys to soon, called the Samuel Slater Experience in Webster, Massachusetts. It's like a good 2.5, 3 hours away from where we live, but totally worth it. One of the best museums we've ever been to, honestly. Like the quality of it. They actually had some Disney Imagineers work on it, and I don't want to spoil it for when we do go, but there's some interactive elements there that are just fantastic. And we learned a lot about Samuel Slater. I read about him before we went and have continued to do deep dives and also visited his mills down near Providence, Rhode Island. But he had a huge imprint on this place. And what I was going to say is a lot of the equipment that he had, because he had been in here before this mill, when they were getting going here, they bought some used equipment from his mills, and my understanding is that they worked for a while but then didn't last because they had already been through so much. So they did end up having to purchase, create, and you know, ingenuity. You have to create something when the rubber meets the road, and it was a challenge for a while, but they came up with their own equipment eventually, and I think, as we'll find out, things progressed and they even got into making denim. Now, what in the heck is this tunnel? And why do I think it's so cool? I don't know if it, whoa, echo. Echo. I don't know if it's showing up as cool on the camera as it is seeing this. It's eerily neat. It doesn't say, but we think that, you know, obviously water flowed through here and was brought right in to the mill. And you can feel the cold air coming through there. I can't imagine how damp. This, of course, now we have modern heat and lights in here, but that would not have been at the time. That at one time they had like up to 25,000 looms going in here, so think about how many people it takes to do that. And here we have Francis Lowell, industrial spy. In 1810, Francis Cabot Lowell toured a textile factory in Manchester, England, hoping to learn how machines make cloth. It was risky business. England hoped to keep her former colony as a market, so this tech was top secret. Exporting textile machines and plans for making them was a crime. Ruh-roh. But he got the town of Lowell, Massachusetts named after him. He was member of Boston's most prosperous families. He knew it was going to be good. He had the vision for it and wanted to bring this to New England. And that's how we got the information. So, I didn't know this. Very cool, super important. This, you know, these people were visionaries. Okay, the Scots-Irish settlers brought a tradition of linen making from Ireland to Derryfield. The region quickly developed a reputation for producing high-quality homespun cloth. Well, I can tell you that I am a big consumer myself of wool and linen from Ireland, Scotland, and yes, even sometimes England. Right now, I myself am actually carrying a handbag with Harris tweed from Scotland. My point being that people from those regions know what is up when it comes to quality woolen products, how to spin them, how to produce them, and so it all makes sense and it's all connected in this great Celtic culture and tradition of textile making. And it's a huge thing when we go to Scotland too. It comes up again and again, so it makes sense that it was brought here. Get some local flax, and this is the nasty looking device you would have to use to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Get any bits out and kind of brush it like you would somebody's nasty tangled hair before you could put it through a machine and turn it into anything. So there was a lot of steps here, and again, very painstaking. But look at, you could wind up with this beautiful linen towel. As an example of, you know, the process of what would happen with cotton from the field. It'd be picked, brought in, then it would be carded, of course, spun, warped, and woven into cloth. I just learned from this video playing behind me that it's not Amoskeag, it's Amoskeag. All I can do is laugh and apologize, you guys. I didn't know. Is that Amoskeag? It's got an M. Looked like a moose keg to me. Alright. Live and learn. This is a really big loom. Draper automatic loom, apparently, is what it's called. You can watch, and there's all kinds of information to read. Examples of different types of looms and different sizes. Lots of information about the process. Oh, looky looky. Gingham and the Scottish weavers. So here's some information about, the types of people that lived here and the conditions under which they live. Now, not all mills were created equal. In the case of Samuel Slater down in Massachusetts, he was big on good living conditions for his people, providing them an education, opportunity to go to places of worship, get access to good health care, really nice housing. But in certain cities and places, that was not always the case. Either way, my goodness, these are children, like kids, working here. I mean, it was part of the culture, and we have to look at it under the lens of the time, as we do with all pieces of history. And these kids weren't lazy. They weren't on video games. They weren't playing Battlefront or anything like that. So they were working really hard. Oftentimes, providing for their families, bring their checks home, and they would collectively put it together. These were hard times. And, you would have had immigrants, people from all over, a lot of people from Scotland, Ireland, but you had, people from Sweden, people from all parts of the world. What does this say? Oh, wow. Okay. So there was an Arabic school, Lebanese. Yes. Large Lebanese. We have a large Greek population. We would have had Italians, all kinds of things. The melting pot would have been alive here in Manchester, and certainly in the mill. So it must have been interesting because you probably would have heard different languages spoken as they were working. And, if you think about that, it contributed to the American culture and kind of the thought behind that. It's kind of like people who come from cities are used to being around different cultures, and people who lived in workhouses or mills, things like that. It's the same thing. It wasn't, it was foreign, but not foreign to them and to their psyche because they're used to being around a lot of... Would you like to work here?
No.
You wouldn't? Lebanese club. Oh, Lebanese food is the best, by the way. Yum. God, I could go for some tabbouleh and kofta. Sounds so good. North end of Manchester. See, it's still, that house is still there. I know exactly where that is. There's some beautiful architecture in this city, and it definitely, I feel like it gets overlooked by a lot of other areas. So of course, it's gonna have some city problems, like I said, but guys, all in all, perspective, comparing it to cities across the country, other places I've been, traveled to, live near, it's pretty dang nice, all things considered. I mean, a lot of the architecture is like that. It's very common. And again, this still looks exact. I mean, you probably wouldn't see the horse and buggy and ladies dressed so fancifully. Love the outfits. But that area right there, I mean, it still looks the same. Obviously, an early fire truck. Imagine, dude, okay. A dude would sit right there. Look at this thing. Gosh, that looks so heavy. Quite the contraption. Museum. If you're into Rev War stuff, Industrial Revolution, firefighting history, this is very cool. All about the steam fire engine operation, how they worked. Oh my gosh, look at this footage. Worth mentioning, these fires in California, crazy to watch. Being that I'm from Los Angeles originally, it's just, hearing about street names and seeing places that were my old stomping grounds, basically, just gone, and all of the thousands of people who are now homeless, famous people and regular everyday people all coming together, and just the loss and devastation. My heart and prayers go out to them. It's a crazy, crazy thing. Nehemiah Bean, inventor and innovator. From Gilmanton, New Hampshire. Father died when he was young, and he lived for several years with the Canterbury Shakers. Whoa! He lived with the okay, we're gonna have to do that too on a nice day. The Shaker Village up the road. So, north of Concord. By the way, we're 30 minutes from Concord. Right now in Manchester. If you go about Another 20 minutes north of that, you will come to the Canterbury Shaker Village. Shakers, interesting group of people. There are only 2 Shakers left in the world, and they actually live up in northern Maine in the Shaker Village there. But this guy apparently went and lived with them, which, you know, he would have learned woodworking at least. Overseer of the patent room in the machine shop here, and from 1850 to 1854 was superintendent of the locomotive department. Went to work in Lawrence and Essex in Massachusetts. He designed this style of engine here, and this is literally it. You can see how the steam would have came out of the top of the boiler there, and all those gauges, you know, to control the pressure and the wheels, and look what they had for a light. It's crazy. I just can't imagine, like, you know, you'd sit there and get the horses going. It's nuts. You know, he was called the inventor of the best steam engine in the world. Oh, those are big words. So, Nehemiah Bean. Some more weaponry. 58 cal percussion muzzle loading issued by the government. Wow, look at that. Manufactured here. Lock plate mold. And to this day, New Hampshire, being a live free or die state, is very much a firearm friendly. A lot of people carry. Concealed or open it is Constitution carry. Every state is different. Kind of part of the culture. And in New Hampshire, everybody has the right to carry a weapon as they see fit. Here's another crazy thing. Look at those cool old signs too. The Torrent number 5, purchased in 1844, was the city's second hand-operated fire pump. So of course, as the city grew and people moved here and the population expanded, they needed basic things like firefighting, law enforcement, health. You know, as cities do as they get big, you need resources. Apparently, fire was a big one. Kind of getting to the beginning of the end. You know, there was a series of strikes and unionization, and eventually, as World War I came and then ended, things changed, the economy tanked, and mills, you know, all over the country closed at that point, and that is how America became left with many empty mill buildings. This one not being empty, but having life in it, as they do often in New England. Again, love that.
Most cheerless sight in the United States today are the grimy clusters of abandoned
Classic voice.
which shroud most New England mill towns in unbroken gloom. For the textile industry that built mile upon mile of New England factories has for the past 30 years been migrating slowly but steadily southward to the Cotton Belt, the states where labor is cheapest. Establishing themselves within easy transportation distance of the plantation, these new mills have gradually won for the South supremacy in the nation's textile industry. Today, outproduce New England mills 4-1.
Whoa. Okay, you guys know anthrax, like the white powder? So get that image out of your mind. In 1957, there was an outbreak here from a goat that was transported from Pakistan, and 4 people died, 9 people got very, very sick. And so they had to close and demolish this one. Yeah, that's crazy. Tore it down because they were, you know, anthrax can get airborne and go in crevices, and the thing that makes it so deadly is one, you know, piece of powder dust and it can infect you. And so they tried, and, you know, the outbreak happened in 57, but in 71 they tried again to rectify the situation, but by 77 they were like, yeah, it's not worth the risk, so they just, down it went. And then some more information here about the gentleman I was telling you about, who in the 1980s, another great time, I would know because I was there, you know, did a lot to save the area, make, you know, Manchester the beautiful, vibrant place that it is, contributing to the building we're in now and making sure that there was a life in it and that it thrived. And it's part of the reason that, you know, it's not a dump. Just being blunt, it's not a dump like a lot of towns that have fallen by the wayside or have old mills. You know, it's a lovely place, and these buildings are not just sitting derelict. What is this? Original location of Soda Bear sign. Oh, look it. So this sat outside this pharmacy soda shop. That is a creepy looking bear. It's like a bear wolf dog. Back to some more local history. So this exhibit talks about this artist named John Rogers, who, if you look in this picture where he's sculpting, he is wearing a Scottish tam. Rogers is often a good Scottish name. I wonder if he is any relation to Robert Rogers. I don't know. It does say that he was from Salem, Mass. So maybe not. I know it's a common name, but nevertheless, these are absolutely gorgeous. And I shrieked a little because here is one of Ichabod and Katrina von Tassel from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by one of my favorite authors, Washington Irving. Of course, centering around the town of Tarrytown in New York, now known as Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow in Irvington, an incredible place that we love to visit. We were supposed to go there recently. I know we said we would, we didn't, but we will soon, I promise, because we were all really wanting to get back there. Such an area rich in history, and that is one of my favorite stories. And people think of it as a horror story. It is really a love song to the Revolution and the story of a Hessian soldier and what the townspeople were left with as far as imagination and feelings of the time following the Revolutionary War. And Washington Irving was just an incredible man with such an amazing backstory of his own. Huge fan of George Washington, who he met when he was a child, but that is a whole other story I will get into with you guys at a point further down the road. This one is taken from Longfellow's The Courtship of Miles Standish, which of course is about passenger on the Mayflower, Miles Standish. And I've been doing a lot of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow reading lately, actually. And we just watched over the holidays a lovely movie. I highly suggest the movie called I Heard the Bells. And it's got a couple moments that are a little bit like, you know, could be viewed as cheesy, I guess. But really it's well done and sentimental, I guess would be a better word. Highly recommend. I Heard the Bells tells the amazing story of Longfellow and some of what he went through and what inspired him. A really good family-friendly movie. But moving on, here is one honoring leaders of the anti-slavery movement, poet John Greenleaf Whittier, journalist William Lloyd Garrison, and preacher Henry Ward Beecher. Legendary abolitionists. And look, it's called The Fugitive Story. Look how beautiful this work is. Like, John Rogers really talented. Incredible. Coming to the parson. Wounded to the rear, one more shot. And the wounded scout. All of them absolutely gorgeous. Really cool signage and artwork from the area. Photographs. Cool piece of advertising there too. I was never good at that game, Simon. It was created here, and even if I had lived here, I would have still been horrible at it. Too fast for me, too much going on. Nothing like the buzzing of old neon. I love it. Got the advertisement song going in the background. I'm convinced, man. I want sundial shoes like right now. Telling you guys that the Segway was invented here? Well, here's an early one. Paul Blart approved. By the way, Paul Blart, the mall stuff filmed in Burlington, Mass, which is not too far away. It's actually a really nice mall. We've been to a few times. I don't know that it's enough to like film a whole locations video. I don't think that Paul Blart has quite the following that Beetlejuice does, but you guys let me know. Do you want to see the mall where Paul Blart was filmed? I'm gonna guess no, but it's made right here. Oh, you guys, so when we first moved here, we were like shocked and kind of entertained by the fact that it's really cool. Like a lot of people in their own front or backyards make ice skating rings this time of year. I've never lived somewhere where I've seen that or where that's been the case, but ice skating is a thing. Hockey is really big here. Again, not too many people skating around on homemade rings in Los Angeles. Of course, there's indoor arenas, but like this is like homespun, and it's cool. Now, my mom grew up in Michigan, and she is a very good ice skater. I have seen it with my own eyes. She can do tricks and all this crazy. She actually owns ice skates, and it's something she enjoys doing. I tried it once, and it freaked me out. It was an epic failure. I don't know that I would be eager. I don't have like the greatest balance, even though I have been trained in all types of dance. That doesn't mean necessarily that I have great balance, but I do like shoes. Dr. Sign. Now there's another good Scottish name. Dr. Dunbar. I feel like Dr. Dunbar could be trusted. I hope you guys found that informative. It was a lot of fun. Always cool to check out something new, and again, a great indoor activity for a day like this when it's freezing. I'm gonna go back out into the cold. I recommend the Milyard Museum in Manchester. It's pretty cool. So I think we're gonna move on, and as you can tell, my voice is again not matching up, so I had to redo this part for you too, but the audio does once again go back to normal if you just hang tight for me. And this turns into a lot more than just a little bit of bonus footage. This is like a bonus adventure. Hope you enjoy. Like Patrick Henry, I know no way of judging the future but by the past. Hit that like button for me, guys. Share away, subscribe. Appreciate it. A little bit of bonus footage. We decided to come to one of our favorite antique stores called Antiques on Elm, just down the street from where we were in the heart of Manchester. And you can kind of see, like, there's some ghost advertising there. The brick buildings continue. These would have been warehouses and whatnot. You've got a famous chocolate store there, and here's just kind of some perspective on Manchester. This is like the main drag here. Elm goes through the city, so yeah, you can see the weather's getting snarly, but we're gonna go in and see if there's anything. We have found some really cool stuff here in the past, so what you could find. You got Trump money next to Space Wars, and a Monster magazine, and the Beatles. And everything you could ever need in one space. Very busy today. I think maybe because it's snarly out, so everybody's like thinking this, because it's a big antique mall, that it'd be a good indoor space to hang out for a while. That's my guess. The thing I always find here is cool old books. A lot of them local, so like if you live in a certain town, you might be able to get the history of that town. So they can be a really good resource. Of course, books can be musty when they're old and very hard to read. Kind of sets my allergies off. Sometimes they're just fun to collect too. I do have a nice little collection of some older books. And sometimes the price is not as bad as you would think, depending, but it's kind of fun for deep dives and research. The good thing too about those is, you know, the older books written by historians of the era, or even 100 years later, I guess I'm talking about the 18th century, people like Charles Coffin, a wonderful historian who got his start being a war correspondent during the Civil War. He is from Boscawen, New Hampshire, and I've been reading his stuff since before I even moved here. One of my favorite historians. He wrote many books on the Revolution, but You don't get a lot of the flim flam and whim wham that you get with modern historians and kind of revisionist history. They tended to go right to the source, so a really good way to get a lot of the information. Never know what you're gonna find. Like, I saw M. Alcott, L.M. Alcott, on the edge of the book, and I opened it and went, look it. I didn't know Louisa May Alcott made a book named after me. You can find in antique stores. Awesome records that are hard to find. Like, here's a good old rockabilly album, Duane Eddy and the Rebels. Not exactly something you can just pick up at, you know, Walmart. Speaking of rockabilly, the boy, Noah, found this cool red California Ranchwear Western shirt from the 50s. He's gonna get it. He loves vintage clothing. His collection is like, honestly, I'm jelly. But that'll look really cool with some cuff jeans like he's got on, and well, he'll figure it out. But yeah, see, you just never know what you're gonna find. That's a great deal. That is frightening. I would not. I don't know what's that is. Some creepy clown. I don't know what's going on with his body or the flower or his face. History of Hudson, history of Keene, Surrey, Northfield. You can get like really cool histories of your town. I've seen pretty much everyone. And this looks like those Measure Mill boxes. Because it is. If you guys go back and watch my vlog, I go to Fry's Measure Mill and show where these are made. 32 bucks. That is a great deal. I mean, it's lightly used, but look at that. Ah, those. I don't like that at all. The Rock has come a long way, hasn't he? This is General Marion and the British officers, so that's supposed to be like Francis Marion, like the swamp fox? I don't know. Must be. He was an interesting guy. Like, we just wound up in Gaston's Tavern here. Gotta find my children. Gosh. Ramon's puzzle. Is it weird that I kind of want it? Whoa, what is going on here? Alright, so thinking about it, I know what these are. I have the book. It's the Clans of Scotland book, and they've taken them out, matted them, and in this case framed them, which actually kind of a good idea. I don't want to mess with my book because it's kind of rare, hard to get, and mine is in really good shape. But it would be a cool way to, you know, display them because they're pretty. So we both found some things. I found this sterling silver thistle pin, 10 bucks. I can't say no. And the kid got some military pouches. I think they're ammo bags, and the Western shirt. So we're gonna enjoy these. Ba 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 ba. I wanna go home and eat dinner. Should have gotten the Ramones poster. Anyways, now that I've serenaded you, thanks for hanging out. Peace. Buy sundial shoes. Thanks for joining us. Like Patrick Henry, I know no way of judging the future by the past.